we'll go back to the bio because it's so impressive, some of the work you've done. So I'll formally do that. Um, uh, uh, you're an internationally established artist, designer, master of color, whose personal and visual identity is firmly rooted in the Bronx. His graffiti street art designs and canvases were shaped and helped develop the visual identity that emerged from the cultural tensions and realities of the Bronx from the mid-1980s to the present. He's exhibited painted around the globe since 1980, including New York City, London, Paris, Colombia, Germany, Poland, New Orleans, and many other countries around the world. And of course, you are one of the founders of the world celebrated TATS CRU, and we want to welcome you to the Museum of Graffiti.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Can you hear
So
me okay?
Bio, you are, I hear you. I wish you were a little bit louder, but we'll have you
Okay.
speak up a little bit.
Okay.
You are 1/3 of this amazing group of friends, family really at this point, and artists. BG, Nicer, and yourself have a long history. Tell
Yeah.
us a bit about that.
Well, I mean, I met Nicer and BG in high school. We actually met in James Monroe High School in the Bronx in the early '80s, and we actually met BG in gym class. He wanted to share my locker because he forgot his locker, so he would always come and share my locker. And then somehow we just managed to wind up in the same major art class. And then Nicer was slightly younger than us, so he would kind of like want to come around and stuff. But then, we've been together since high school painting, from subways to streets to commercials to the whole 9 yards.
So the one thing that's so iconic about the TATS CRU itself, it's its reverence for its community, the Bronx, New York. You guys are hardcore New Yorkers.
Absolutely.
And it shows in your work. Tell me about this relationship that you've built with the community through mural making.
I mean, for us, it was just a question of, improving the neighborhood we live in. I mean, we've been fortunate where we travel around the world, to paint murals and do artwork. So we were like, why not in the community we live in? So that's part of the reason why we enjoyed, doing, murals in the neighborhood and stuff like that. That I Love the Bronx mural was our love for the Bronx, just showing everything that's great about the Bronx. A lot of rich history comes out of the Bronx, and we just want to try to highlight, parts of it. Obviously, there's so much more that you can't tell in the mural, but, we tried our best to capture that.
And generally, when you're doing these murals, what's the community engagement with you on that?
I mean, you, as anywhere else, you got the supporters, you got the what are you doing? You got permission, you got the nosy old ladies, and then you got people who know your work for many years and are just excited to see you out there still painting and brightening up the community, just adding life to the walls.
And it's not just Harlem. I mean, you guys, you recently did something here in Miami as well at the Wynwood Walls.
Yeah, we did the Wynwood Walls. We had a great time there.
Yeah, and you did the Bowery Walls. That was a big come up for you guys.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. I mean, we enjoyed that. I mean, it was definitely one of the coldest days. I think it was maybe like 20-something degrees when we painted that mural, but Jessica and Janet reached out to us and they were like, listen, would you guys be interested? And, there have been so many legendary artists on that wall that it was an honor for us just to be on there. So, we came through, Crash came, joined the board. We invited, what we tried to do different was we invited a few other artists. Like we had Days come in, do his name inside the heart. And then on the lower left side of the mural, from my view, all the writers who stopped by to visit, you got Zephyr, Dez, so many artists were coming through and we were just having them sign, take tags on the handball court,
Yeah, I remember watching this as it unfolded online, and I was living upstate at that time, and I didn't come down in time. I knew it wasn't a call-in request of the tag. But another thing about New York, you guys became really iconic and synonymous with the Graffiti Hall of Fame. You guys always did the outer wall.
Right.
for many years. Do you know how many years you guys have been working on that?
Oh, I know. I mean, the first time I painted in the Hall of Fame was probably maybe 86, but the outside, we've probably been doing it since the 90s. I'm somewhere around there. And part of the reason was like nobody wanted to be on the outside. Everybody wanted to be inside or have the main wall. And we were like, listen, whatever, we'll take the outside wall, no problem.
Yeah, for those that don't know, the graffiti Wall of Fame is on 106th Street and Park Avenue in Manhattan. So that is a famous location, and visually, I mean, really, you guys locked that in. How did you manage to lock that in? That it's just you that paints that wall.
I mean, it just became our wall. Like we were like, listen, when nobody wanted it, we took it. So can't have it now. It's ours. No, I mean, it's just the way it's been. We kind of locked it in, and we've been there and consistent, and we make sure we maintain it. And for us, the Hall of Fame, we respect the original, the original essence of it. Because I remember when I first started writing, going to the Hall of Fame and just being like amazed at like some of the work that was in there. You had the outside with the plasmatics that Volcan, the Graffiti Hall of Fame that Dez did. Then you go inside, I remember at one time they had the Scheme, I don't know who else, the other pieces, and then, Strictly Kings and Better. You have Futura pieces in there, Teabag, Chain, like all these Futura. And it was just like, to me, these guys were like the celebrities of the subways, for a young writer just starting to be able to stop and just study some of these walls. Because on the subway, you'd see it, but it was like a brief moment. But this was a place where you can go stand there and just look at the colors, look at the style, and like absorb this.
Amazing. In terms of the walls and the murals that your company has painted over the years, I wanted to show this. Being that we are here in Miami and people always take photographs of murals and they try to shoot videos in front of murals. They have this liberty, this sense of entitlement of the work because it's up on the wall. In this particular case, when you guys did the I Love Bronx wall, Fiat shot a commercial without permission. I want
Yeah.
to know more about how TATS CRU protects itself and its work in public.
I mean, clearly we do a lot of work, so this is not the only incident we've had. For us at this point, we just copyright. We have a lawyer. We've also learned on our own how to copyright. It's not difficult. You just go on the website and enter all your information, size of the wall, the year it was created, published, what have you, whatnot. And it's, I think, if I remember correctly, like $35, $40, not expensive. And if you want, you can do a bulk of photos at once. So, it's definitely the way to go, especially if you're an artist working outdoors. I mean, you have so many photographers and so many, I mean, as I mentioned, it wasn't the first incident for us, and it definitely hasn't been the last. I mean, we've had several since. And it's an ongoing thing if you're an artist who works outdoors.
Right. And of course, this was sensationalized because your girl from the BX, J-Lo, was in it.
Yeah.
Did she
But
catch wind of it? Was there any
I
reply from her?
I don't know. I mean, apparently she shot her end of it in LA, so she wasn't here when they shot that. So I doubt if she even knew what was going on. I guess somebody else drove the car in that scene, and they kind of, I don't know how
Right.
movie magic had her in the car and that sort of thing. But I don't know if it ever got back to her. I'm not sure.
But in terms of murals in the public domain, you, for instance, you copyright the TATS CRU murals,
Right.
but when you do the bio pieces and the burners, where does that stand in terms of legal protection?
I mean, it's the same thing. It's my work. It's the same process. You just copyright that mural as well. It applies to any work you put outdoors where you're going to be subject to being, plagiarized, stolen, whatever, photographed. I mean, we got even the Bowery wall we did. There was a photographer selling postcards at Rockefeller Center or whatever, some shop, and it gets to a point, there's so many, you have to kind of pick and choose your battles.
Yeah, understood. So for folks that are just joining us, I want to welcome you to the Museum of Graffiti Daily Artist Talk. I'm Carlos Mayer, also known as Mayer 139, and I'm joined by Bio Feliciano, one
Merlots.
one third, only my friends, my close friends would say, one third of the infamous TATS crew. And it's such a joy to talk to you because one, I've known you forever since you were a young guy painting trains and
Yeah.
all that. But you've become one of my favorite style maps. If I wanted to be a style writer that painted, I mean, I've got my own thing,
You
but
got your own thing. You got your.
I think you're a marvelous painter, and you have a
Thank you.
lot of the great qualities that I knew of all the greats that I admired when I was younger. And so
What?
I want to dive into that part of your work. And I chose this image to start this conversation because one, it's a commercial style image, but what you're stating is important. You say more style, fast, easy burning.
Yeah.
And that's a great deal of confidence. And that confidence started really building on the trains, didn't it? That when you guys
Yeah.
started bombing hard. And
Yeah. I
let's
mean,
talk a little bit about the trains.
the train. I mean, remember we came up in New York City at the time when we were coming up. The trains were just covered. You know, you had all the greats. Like we got to experience a time in the graffiti history where you just had all the masters. You had the Dondis, the Lees, you know, the TDS, TMT. You know, you had all these guys, rock stars. Your brother, Kel, Crash. You know, Days. You know, I came up in an era where these were my teachers in essence. You know, what with Kaz 207, you know, Shy
And Shy,
147,
yeah.
you know, you had Scene, Duster, uh, and for me, I learned from each of these guys. You know, from obviously a guy like Scene, the simplicity and the colors of, you know, the bright attention-getting simplicity of it, but then the style from crews like Rockstars, you know, TDS, TMT, you know, just Don D, CIA, you know, these guys were just pulling out some incredible pieces. And I was just at the time, you know, absorbing it on the platform, just looking, you know, those brief seconds, just seeing, you know, these odd colors, these, you know, ill color outlines, different styles, and just like,
Tell us who
so
you were writing, the early Tats crew. It was you, Brim,
May, Brim,
Shane,
Mac,
Mac.
Shame, yeah. And early on, Ken, Sam, Raz, Shame 125th, you know, one time Per, you know, early on was with us from FX. So, you know, BG obviously was one of my first partners along with Mac and Brim. But, you know, when I first started, I was, the minute I saw graffiti on the subway, oh, Volcan, somebody mentioned, I just saw the name Volcan, can't forget Volcan, you know, uh, it was for me like full on became 24 hours a day. I needed to study. And for a long time, I struggled with the thing where I was like, I don't have a style. I never could place my style. And after a while, I was like, whatever, I'll just do any style. Like I enjoy doing simple styles, block letters, bubbles, wild styles. For me, the more the merrier. I've truly enjoyed the art of, you know, letter bending, whatever what you want to call it. You know, that's what I thrive on, top to bottom with John One.
Yes, you painted
Yeah,
with the infamous John 1,
yeah, that was in the 125th tunnel. I forget the year, 84.
137.
No, it was 125th at that for some specific. It was a. I remember we went into
Well,
the 116, and it was between 116 and 125th.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, before it
This
comes on
wasn't
the
on
elevated.
this wasn't the one train. This was
Oh,
they had like a special winter kind of layup they used to do
gotcha.
near 116 and 125th, and ran into John in there, and he had like a ton of scraps, and he was like, "Yeah, you want to paint?" I just finished doing a car. I'm not sure it was with Mac or with T Kid, and or whoever. I know Diro was in the tunnel that week. There was a bunch of artists in the tunnel that weekend, and I ran into John. And he had like all these scraps. He's like, "You want to get down?" And we just got down, whatever
It,
scraps, and you know,
it
pulled it
just
off.
sounds, if I could just pause you on that, right? And I want
Sure.
people to digest that, what you're saying, that what is this community finding itself in tunnels like they're, you know, and to paint, right?
I mean, listen.
What's illegally, let's just add that to it, right? This is an illegal act, and yet
Yeah.
all these artistic criminals find themselves in tunnels painting. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, it didn't seem illegal at the time. I mean, it just like that's what we did. I mean, you would just go, find different spots, and that was a dope layup, and we pulled it off and had some amazing memories from it. Oh,
yeah,
that's Black Book. That's
yeah, and I like that you emphasize on style. I could see that early on, what you're
yeah.
experimenting with, some really sophisticated concepts. This is 1984, and I want people to digest this, right?
Mhm.
Because this is 1984, and look at how sophisticated that lettering is.
Yeah, I mean, I had some good teachers, the phase twos, the whole
So we move
spectrum.
on from the trains, right? The trains are
Yeah.
over, but that doesn't mean that necessarily gone away. And we chose these two slides because there are subway trains, but tell us about where they are and
That
why you did
that's
them.
that's actually at Kingston. That's a train museum in Kingston, New York. And what that was, it was they organized a battle. It was Chino, I think Sasha and Sasha Jenkins and somebody else organized, the Battle of Kingston. So on my team, I had Sess, Doves, and Ribs, and I think we won like 3 years in a row. Like we would go and paint these real trains actually at a train museum, and we would compete with like four other artists who would paint the other side of the train, and then they would choose winners, and each year we were undefeated.
I lived in Kingston.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I was sneaking up on you guys. And
Oh,
I was just
okay.
like, I couldn't believe being so remote, far up,
From New
that
York.
graffiti and you guys were following. I was like leaving the city and you guys were coming up here. And it was a very special program. I mean, the work was exceptional. I have to show this car because this was phenomenal.
Okay, yeah, that was one of the years. I think the theme was because you had to pick a theme. So that year, I think we wound up with the theme of toys. So that's why it says toys above. Like we did like a Toys R Us. Stubbs did some funky characters, whatever. I mean, everybody came through. Like I had a great team. My team was like on point.
Tell me about this thing about competing, right? We're competing with style. In the traditional art world, artists live very isolated and secular lives sometimes
Right.
where they either, are in a group or isolated. They're not thinking about competition amongst each other in the same way other than possibly market, right? Are
Right.
we going to get a show? Are we going to get a collector? But when we talk about aesthetic, those of us who are style writers are really competitive over the aesthetic.
I mean, in graffiti, I've always felt no matter, even if you're friends, even if you're partners, when you go to paint, you're putting your best. Like, you're silently saying, I want my piece to come out better. Even if though that's your friend for many years, whatever, it's not, you know, him against me, but it's like, all right, I want to burn. That's the whole point. Because if you're not doing it to that level, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
So, like Sade always says, it's always a battle. So
Do you feel that way when you paint next to Nicer and BG?
all the time, absolutely. My whole crew,
No, no
every
feelings get
single,
hurt?
nope, every single one of us, from How Nazem, Totem, they know when it's time to paint. Oh, put your feelings away, bring your best.
I love it. Um, so the other thing that I like about you guys is that up at the point, you guys have your own train. Not a full
Yes,
train. This is a train that Metal Man Ed
yeah, Metal
constructed for you
Magnet,
guys.
yeah.
And tell me about, before we go into who gets to paint it, what is that experience like for you?
I mean, obviously it's not the feeling of a real train, but it's fun to be able to work on that same physical structure like that, that window down, because when you paint a wall, it's a lot different from painting on a train, like even the style changes because you have a flat bottom that you have to account for. So, it definitely affects the styles that you can do. Like you can't do like these styles that whip under the piece and come around. I mean, you can, but you kind of limit it from window to the bottom of the train unless you're doing the top to bottom. So it's a different style of painting, which I enjoy. Different from walls. You kind of adjust. You have to make that adjustment. I don't think people who paint walls and have never painted a train understand that. Because I've seen guys who have painted walls come paint our train, and they don't they go past the windows and it looks weird because they don't have that balance or that, you know, that structure where that, you know, has to be on a train.
One of the things that I liked when I was digging up some of these pictures, you open it up to the community as well.
Yeah. I mean, we've done workshops with different organizations. We've invited artists from all around the world. I mean, we've had celebrities come through and paint, you
Yeah,
know,
we got a picture of Joey Crack, Fat Joe,
Joe
getting
Crack,
loose.
Joe Crack, like he loves to paint. I'm really, you guys don't understand how much Joe loves to paint. He just doesn't have the time, but graffiti is something that he loves, you know. So he's come through and painted. We had Tommy from Power, Joseph, you know, our boy Eve Rivera, who's a music director, brought him through. So we've had a lot of artists, celebrities, and people just come through. You know, K Slay's always there painting on his own. You know, whole cars top to bottom in like freezing weather, burning heat by himself. And I go back there and I'm like, yo, you out of your mind.
I mean, do you ever feel like these works, they're so beautiful that you wish you could preserve them? Or is or do you just like, well, whatever, it
I
is
th-
no different than,
it's no, to me, it's like a subway. To me, I learned a long time ago the photo is the important part of the, you know, once we had that photo, we didn't care what happened to the car, the wall, what have you. And I still, you know, my belief is still that way. Once I got the picture, I don't care.
any favorite collaborations that you've painted on these trains?
Uh, well, I've done a few. I've done with Days. I've painted with, I painted with the Mo, you know, twins. Right now I'm waiting for Part, you know, and hopefully once things get better, I want to rock something with
You
Des,
know,
you
Part's
know.
on the check-in, so I hope he heard that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, Part and I are overdue. You know, Part is someone who I've looked up to for many years. You know, I think Part is one of the underrated for people. A lot of people don't underestimate. I mean, obviously he has his history and his reputation, but I feel Part is one of the baddest dudes to be painting so long and still be relevant and still be able to get busy. You know, definitely I salute Part. You know.
Yeah. I mean, this platform is great because it is kind of a showcase uh, spot, even for the summers. You know, it's a great place. It's a safe
Yeah.
zone, right? It's a safe
Yeah,
space.
yeah. I mean, it's very relaxed. It's a community center. We don't have like a lot of people hanging out. Like when the artist or whoever comes back, they're pretty much on their own or private. You know, we'll throw an occasional barbecue in the back, but for the most part, whoever's painting, they have their privacy. You know, they can rock out. We don't bother them and just let them do what they need to do.
I want to talk about style.
You
I'm a
should you shouldn't put that. Seth doesn't want to see that piece.
tell me why.
Because you know when you're a victim of like a tragic situation and your mind kind of blots it out. So that piece was one of the pieces when I battled Sess, and he's kind of blocked out that tragic moment in his
Right.
life.
Should we
Nah,
clear it up for folks that you are friends?
no,
And
Sess is my boy. He's a good
right,
dude.
right.
You
And
know,
this is part of the frenemy part of graffiti writing when you compete, when you have a battle with style.
yeah.
And when you're painting against Cess, you have to bring your A+ game.
Man, listen, if you don't come prepared for a guy like Sess, you're gonna be in bad shape. You know, obviously we had a great time. Uh, You know, Sess is still in denial. You know, like George Costanza, if you believe it is not a lie, so he believes he won.
Are we gonna see are we gonna see a part two?
I mean, it's been a long time. Haha, see Sess. um,
I wish I
maybe.
had
I
his
mean, why
Cess
not?
piece to compare. I don't
Oh,
have that.
yeah, he did a blue piece. He did a blue piece with some tanks. I mean, he got
But
busy. He
this
did his
idea of
thing. Obviously, at this level of the game, it could be anyone's game. You know, it's not about. It could be a twist of it could be a color thing. It could be a twist of a letter. It just at this point, you know, when you're dealing with guys that paint at this level, you know, it could be anyone's game. You know.
right, I mean, but is it do you feel sometimes that it's too subjective and not, I guess, because some people will, you know, people have you have
Yeah.
fans, right? You have camps on one side and the other,
And the
and that
sad
there's no.
part is that Seth has like triple the followers I have and still lost. That's terrible. That's just terrible. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking, Seth. I'm joking.
Yeah, no, but it goes again to me. I think it's so important when we talk about you that it's not just a beautiful painting. I mean, the colors, the way you color is masterful, but also when we think technically about lettering and lettering compositions, and is one thing. While this isn't your,
That last wall, I'm sorry,
yeah,
that
let's
last
go
wall was
back.
with Hal Nazem. That was with Hal Nazem and Rage. Yeah, that was Hal Nazem background. And then next to me, the piece that's not shown was of Rage. That was in Hunts Point when there was a spot we used to have back there. And then the one after it, that outline was actually given to me by Keen from England, Keen.
Well,
We did
we'll
like a
get to
style
that, but I want to
exchange.
know more about your collaborations with, you know, with Howard Nazem.
Uh, well, I mean, Hal Nazem, we met in like '97. They came for the first time, to New York. And, when we immediately hit it off. When we first met them, like they each had a photo album and they were called Right and Left, that was their crew, RAL. And one, Nazem would have his book and Hal had his photo album. And so you would look at walls and Nazem would have his half of the wall. And then to see the other half, you'd have to look at Hal's photo album. And, we kind of just hit it off. They spoke Spanish. So they came back again in '98. And then in '99, they just wound up, moving to New York. And we worked, together commercial, doing commercial work for about 12, maybe 12 years,
Wow.
somewhere around there. They branched out, started doing their fine art and, the red, black and white murals. And, they've been doing their thing, we're still family, still, talk on the phone. We don't get to see each other much, but, we still talk and, we still got love.
And this piece, I think this is great because I think this focuses on one, colors, right? And
Yeah.
color composition and how you balance out color in a piece. And this is part of a style exchange. You're known for doing these style exchanges,
Right. I
which
did
is,
this one with Keen.
yeah, Keen Rock from the UK.
Yeah.
And he's got a rather unorthodox and difficult style. And the thing is, like any style, you have to invest your time to try to like
Listen,
feel.
it took me about an hour or so or more just to get the sketch up.
For real?
It took me about an hour or so to get the sketch on the wall. Like, you had to make the connection, because he has all these connections and they have to, connect at the right point. And it's just like, I wanted to do the outline justice. So I wanted to get it spot on. So it
Right.
took
And
me
it's also a challenge because he doesn't have that curvy line. He's a very
no, he's very straight.
straight
Like,
line.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was fun. We actually did, this was me just kind of experimenting, like just different color outlines, just whatever goes, nothing too serious. It was just
But
like,
what I see is that, again, as you're growing and developing the, your color schemes and the colors that you feel most comfortable with in your palette, although there are a lot, you kind of narrow that down once you start getting into your fine art, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
And what's interesting from this point, like the departure point was, okay, I'm doing bio a million times. What's next, right?
yeah.
And
I
then you
mean,
decide, instead of a bio piece, let me find an icon that I can relate to.
that was actually unplanned how that came about, that heart, the way that came about, it was like 2009. I was in Puerto Rico. Howard and Nazem were actually out there doing a mural with like Ski, Rec, Bic Ismo, and some other guys from out there. And I happened to go by the wall, and there was like a space on the side of the wall where they were painting. They're like, "Oh, paint, paint." I was like, "Ah, I'm not hanging out." So I decided to paint, and it just happened to be Valentine's Day. So I did a bio piece, and then the dot of my eye, I did like this crooked, raggedy heart. And it was just like, I didn't think much of it. So at the time, there was a friend in Puerto Rico who lived out there, and she was like, "That's a weird heart. I've never seen anything like that. I think it's pretty cool. You should continue doing it." So I kind of did it, kept doing it. I was actually going to do a project with her. She wound up passing away, but I kept doing it. And after a while, when I didn't do it, people were like, "Where's the heart?" And I was like, "The what?" They're like, "That heart you doing?" I was like, "Oh, man, I don't know. I didn't do it." And then I just kind of brought it back and started adding to it and, embellishing more. The more I did it, I started doing it bigger. Then I was like, if I can do it bigger, I could just add different elements like graph elements and designs and abstract. So it kind of took a life on its own. It wasn't something that I sat down and said, I want to create an icon for myself. It
Right.
kind of came to me and attached itself to me.
It's interesting because I don't know if you'll remember this conversation, but I remember when you first showed it to me and we were talking about this, I was, I wasn't approving of it at first. Only, only because, right? And I kept telling you, go into the macro of your painting and your
Right.
style. That's where the art is, right?
Hmm.
Again, you you did that, and we'll see that. But I, foolishly, was underestimating the power of the icon, right? And how you were going to drive this icon, right? How you were going to make it your own.
Yeah.
And not just that, but bring in the things that I was hoping you would bring into it, right? And that we could see in this, in the subsequent paintings,
Yeah.
and that you were, again, like you said, it's an universal icon in a
Yeah.
way. We could
Yeah.
all
I
relate
mean,
to it.
everyone can relate to love. Everybody can. The thing about what I realized later on down the road, that I can apply it to in so many different ways. I can do it when I want to do it burning, frozen. I can apply it to when I'm in a different country and use like the colors of that country's flag within the heart. It applies to so much. And I just ran with it, And this is some of my more recent canvas work where I've kind of lost the outline, the letters, and kept the insides more abstract.
Yeah.
I still enjoy working with bright, exciting colors that pop.
Well,
And
this goes to what I was saying to you, this is the revelation as I was going through the pictures, and the thought of the heart, right? And it's interesting because a couple days ago, I had a talk with Atomic, right, who's a style writer just like you, and he went hard, and he found this orange. He found this very simple icon
yeah,
that worked for him, and that
yeah,
he was able to kind of like grow into, and throw what he knew of graffiti and style into it. But here, what I see in you now, again, because now you are venturing into the fine arts, right?
yeah,
You showed at Wallworks, and
yes,
I mean, you're committed to that. You're committed to canvas as well in your career.
yeah.
Tell me about this transition. Is it a comfortable space for you?
It took me a long time to kind of find my voice. I know it seems suddenly, but I think for the past, I want to say, 8 to 9 years, maybe more, I've been, kind of slowly working on canvas and kind of finding my way, like where I felt comfortable. And then the last, I say, couple of years is where I think I've reached a place where, okay, I'm enjoying this. I feel like it's a new beginning for me now, because I feel like I have so much now to do, like I feel like, okay, I'm enjoying this. I have like a rebirth of my career in a way where I feel like I have a lot in my head that I need to get out,
So let me ask you something, because in trying to navigate this space, you also have a friendship and perhaps a mentorship with Crash,
Absolutely.
and
Crash Days, these guys have been,
Days. Yes, correctly, and they're veterans of the game.
yes,
Um,
yes. So I'm fortunate to have
have they
that.
been helpful in terms of helping you understand the space that you're walking into?
100%. If I have questions or something I don't know, I'll just call up Crash. I'll be like, "Hey, Days, even if it's a simple thing about shipping, which people don't even consider, like, like, I'm shipping this here, what do I need to look out for?" And Days is like, "Hey, be careful here with customs, whatever. You got to do this XYZ. You got to do it right." So yeah, and then I've also been approached by different galleries, and Crash and Days have been around a long time. So I'll be like, what do you think about this gallery, these people? And they're like, okay, yeah, they're okay. This is, kind of like, you know, they were there before me. So their word, I value their opinion.
So as you're learning all of this, um, do you get young artists that come for you for advice?
Yeah, I mean,
Are you open about your experience?
absolutely. I mean, we used to act for many years at the point. We used to teach a mural class actually, where we would mentor young artists. And the funny thing is that some of these artists grew up and became like music video directors and hired us to be in music videos, commissioned us to do work. We have young artists who used to come to our class who are now amazing illustrators and, in their own right, have a huge following and just like these fantastic artists. So watching these kids come up and just do this amazing thing, and it's like, wow, for us, it's like, we feel honored that we're part of their life.
Yeah. Do you guys still take interns for TATS CRU murals?
We haven't in a while. It's, for the most part, Nisa Beach and I have been handling the work. I mean, we do bring in an artist here and there whenever necessary, but I think we've been able to handle a lot of the work.
So tell me about what you would hope to happen with your career now. And I mean, now we're in a kind of weird place with the everything's on hold at the moment. And in terms of you got, well, one as the business of TATS CRU,
Yeah.
and you as an artist, what's taking precedent right now? What?
I mean, at the moment, we're still balancing both. We've all, been still doing the commercial work, and trying to balance it again with the gallery work where, there's times where you just got to work harder, just take care of that work, come back, finish, and just go back into the studio and paint. And then, there's times where our office is just full of paintings sitting around, and people will come in for a different meeting, like, what's all this stuff? And they were preparing for something else. So at some point, I think we need to, like Nicer has his own studio, so does BG. I just been slow to get my own space. I've actually this year had started looking for a space before all this happened. I was comfortable working out of the office because we have outdoor space, and I enjoy, for whatever reason, I just enjoy painting outdoors.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
also the thing is, what I found was that you're also taking on commercial projects, and
Yeah.
you've always have, but independent from TATS CRU. You did this Fendi project.
Yeah, actually, the guys were part of that as well. They did
Oh,
their
were they?
separate, but yeah, but they did. We each did separate, paintings, and I just recently did another project with I forgot the name of the company. Like, I think for one of these top modeling agencies where they're coming out with a clothing line. So I have a new project coming out soon, and I've done one or two in the past with a company in Japan that did apparel. I had did some design. So we do individual projects. It's just we've done a lot as TATS CRU, so it's kind of hard sometimes to separate the individual from the name, the TATS CRU. But
Yeah.
we each do our own work, Nicer. Whenever, like, the one thing we don't put together is, I think, the gallery work. Like, Nicer does he has his own style of painting. BG has his own way of painting. So we kind of just stick to the canvas on our own. We still do
So
the commercial.
how would you guys negotiate that if somebody says, well, for this project, I just want bio?
It's happened. It happens. It's just like for some projects, they'll just want Nicer or they'll want BG, and that's okay. That's fine. It is what it is. It's, like I said, we each have a individual style, so we don't do the same thing. So somebody will look at the work and be like, this is what I like. So I'm like, all right, this is what Bio does, or this is what Nicer does, talk to him. Or this is what BG does. And then again, like the murals, the outdoor murals, that's just something we could still collaborate on with projects with schools, corporations and different that stuff we just keep, within the business.
Can, I mean, can you see yourself in terms of the heart, right? In developing the heart art, is there a name for this? Is this a particular title for you, or is it just heart art?
It's just, I mean, no, I mean, there's no real name to it. As for me, it's just self-expression.
Yeah.
Like those little canvases on the screen now. That's something I've been doing now during the lockdown, where they've actually have taught me patience. I'm a person that likes to get stuff done right away, and so I kind of stay away from acrylic and paint like that. But these canvases have forced me, to work in acrylic and slow down and look at it in a different way. And these four little paintings are the result of that. My experimenting with acrylic. And I just, bought a bunch of art material now. Actually, my wife bought it for me, birthday gift. But, I I want to experiment more with, mixing the acrylic with the spray paint once things get back to normal on a larger scale.
So let's touch on that, right? What is art during the Corona crisis, right? And how are you managing your creativity, but also the business of TATS CRU? How does
I
this
mean,
all been affecting you guys?
well, I mean, it definitely affected us. We're at a standstill. We can't paint. I mean, just before this happened, we had a bunch of jobs lined up, several schools, different businesses. So we were set up to start the year well. We had a bunch of work lined up, but as soon as everything got shut down, everything just came to a screeching halt. And I think it's the same for everyone. I mean, there's nobody out there painting. I mean, we've had a few requests where people are like still asking us to come paint. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. I'm not going out there.
You got a request to paint sneakers. They look
Oh, no,
great.
yeah, that was just a small job from my nephew. Cause I
But
mean,
in terms
keep
of
him busy.
right, but in terms of adapting, right? That's the whole thing. We're at a time where we have to adapt to a whole new possibility for some time, that our normal interactions in terms of business and creativity have to be different.
Yeah.
And there's this new abnormal, let's just say. And so are you guys well, let's just talk about you specifically in terms of having sales of your work. How are you going about that?
I've had people reach out to me for smaller work, and here, I think it's possible to just make small work and mail it out and do that sort of thing. But moving forward, that I haven't fully established like what's going to be the new normal, so to speak,
Yeah.
once everything gets back to, I guess, what we would consider normal again. I'm hoping that we can continue painting the commercial murals. I want to continue, working canvases. Good friend of ours for many years, Goldie's venturing a new project, gallery in Bangkok. That's
Yeah.
gonna a huge, amazing space. So I actually have like 4 huge paintings sitting in the office waiting to ship, but that, because
Everything's
of
on
all
hold.
everything's on
Goldie will
hold.
be joining us in the future, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
He did visit
That
us at the
that's
museum.
gonna be an exciting segment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So there's projects, in the pipeline, so to speak, and we just recently in New York, I did a show with Crash Days, Nick Walker, Eric Orr, and the whole idea is just to continue painting. Don't stop. I mean, I'm not gonna let this stop me. Not from doing the commercial meals, not from once things we're able to get back out there, we'll definitely be back out there. But in the meantime and in between time, we're home painting smaller work, keeping busy. Sketching outlines, just keeping
Yeah.
the mind busy.
The last big project I saw you was Miami for Art Basel. Was that the
Yeah.
last big project TATS CRU
Actually,
did?
actually, actually, no. We came back to New York and we were painting. We did a bunch of indoor murals for company that people haven't seen because they're indoors. So, but no, yeah, we did a bunch of stuff after Miami. It's indoor work, private murals and stuff.
You're building a phenomenal legacy with both TATS CRU and your own independent work. And, really, I take my hat off to you. But I'm not going to do it now because I didn't shave. But but it's so important because, as we share our story on this platform, this is about adaptability, but also recognizing and archiving a bit of our story and connecting with our friends online,
Yeah.
right? And our new friends online, say, hey, this is how far we've traveled, and look at where we're all in the same place at the moment, oddly enough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I'm grateful for social media that we're actually able to do this sort of thing. Imagine without
Hmm.
this, how boring and how really quarantined we would feel. If we weren't exposed. If you get bored, you can just go online, look at other people's work, look at what, stuff
Right.
that's happening.
Imagine, and I want people to kind of imagine this with me, because during Art Basel, Miami is such a buzz. It is just so many people, hundreds of thousands of people are about. And when
Yeah,
you guys were painting that mural, the social interaction around you was incredible
yeah, that
every
was
day.
crazy. Yeah,
And all of a sudden, this whole area is a ghost town. And the I think also maybe you guys are good at compartmentalizing the experience of painting a mural without the need for social engagement.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I mean, even here's the funny thing: even when you're painting a mural like that with hundreds of people around, it your focus is what's in front of you. That wall or whatever that you're painting is in front of you. You can be surrounded by, all these people, but it's kind of their background, like noise, like a static, like
Hmm.
you're not really focusing on what's behind you. You're just your full attention is on the wall. So, and we work outdoors all the time, so we're already conditioned to kind of blocking out the surroundings and just dive into the work.
Yeah. I see your boy Seth just gave you a diamond, so you guys are very good friends.
That's my boy. He
In
know.
good,
He
you're
know.
in
He
good
don't. He
standing.
don't. He don't want a
Folks,
round two. No.
I want to remind you all that you're joined. If you don't know it now, Bio from TATS CRU is joining us. If you have any questions for Bio, please submit them now because at 8 o'clock we go off air. And I gotta say, we talk lots every time we see each other. It's always a pleasure.
Yes,
It's
sir.
always good to kind of know where you're at creatively and
And,
what's
and
next.
just a little side note. I actually got the pleasure of painting with your brother not too long ago at Rooftop
Really,
Legend. Yeah, we did a wall. Cal, it was Cal, me, Nicer, and BG. And to be honest, I was pretty excited about that.
really.
Because your brother, Cal has been one of those guys that he was one of like, all right, I've painted with Crash, I've painted with Days. He's from that era, from that
That's
school
right.
where that I felt that he's somebody that I've always wanted to paint. So for me, it was like I was happy. I don't know whether he knew it or not.
You know what's interesting? We looked at you guys because you were from the Sixth Line in the Bronx as well,
Yeah,
and we looked at you guys as the next. We
toys,
knew, no.
toys.
Well, interestingly enough, I kind of me and Brim maybe at one point were kind of bumping heads a little bit, but and I don't even remember why, but I always thought like these were the like rock stars and Tats Crew would merge, right? Because you guys were the guys. You were guys that were killing the Sixth Line. We already left the Sixth
Well,
Line.
the crazy thing is, early on, before I had met any of you guys, I had met Shy.
That's right.
I never paint. I never like. I don't know how the hell we hit it off for friendship. He would come meet me at like James Monroe High School. We would go hang out, whatever. And I remember one time we went to his mother's house, and he's showing me like these photo albums he had in his mom's house of all these trains, and he was like, "Yo, if you want to hang on to them." I'm like, "You crazy? I." Hang on to this. I'm like, "This is fucking crazy." And I was like, "Nah," but he was a good dude, and he
Yeah,
passed away early.
yeah. You have a question from KMS Crew. Uh, do you ever do freestyles, and are your pieces always planned to colors and designs?
I do many freestyles. I can just paint off the top of the head. Yeah, and no, my colors are never planned. I just grab whatever is available in front of me. I've done both. I can paint, with a sketch or without a sketch. Same thing to me.
Um, Spo asks, favorite markers, favorite paint?
I like those Molotov paint markers, those Montana, I like Montana Black.
Nice,
That's
good choice.
yeah.
Uh, My Aquatics asks, how many run-ins with cops have you ever been arrested? Or did they just give you beat downs?
I mean, yeah, of course, it goes with the territory. I've been arrested, never got beat down by cops though, but been arrested. It just, so many years of doing this, you're bound to get caught once or twice.
Tell us what that was like, being arrested.
Getting locked up. I mean, remember, I got caught early on when it wasn't seen as like a felony. You would get caught and you would have to go do like fucking community service, like clean subways on the weekends. You would go
Yeah,
and it would make you buff trains. They give you like
yeah.
this chemical that smell like orange and shit to buff trains, and then you would fucking meet other writers there. It was fucking nuts. But that was back then. I don't know. That was the last time I had gotten arrested.
What were your parents thinking of all this?
Um, Early on, they didn't know, and once they knew, they were like, "What the hell is all this paint? Like, what are you doing?" And obviously, like any parent, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I remember one time, I was in front of my building. I took a tag, And as I looked through the glass, my father's walking. I was young. He walks through, and he was like, "Get your ass over here. You staying with me?" I had to hang out with him the whole day because he caught me writing on some shit. But after a while, as I got older, there's not much they could do. I would just break out, go paint, come back a day, 2 days later, whatever.
King Cat asks, Bio, did you ever bond with Wayne?
No, I never painted with Wayne. No, I mean,
that would be a great battle.
with Wayne.
And look, I'm going to confess, both of you are some of my favorites. I mean, in terms of, and I told Wayne this, the scale that you guys embody so much great things that I admire in great style writers. I would love to see that happen.
Okay, set it up. I'm ready, Wayne. Wherever you at. No,
Wayne, don't get nervous on us, kid.
Nah, I mean, I like Wayne. Wayne's a good dude.
Yeah,
I know
I
Wayne
have
from
another
Actually,
question here.
I painted. We've painted. Yes, we have, but not like in a battle situation. I think I'm just trying to recall what. I mean, we both painted so many times that I'm sure we've wound up on a wall together somewhere.
How Nazem asks, who's your favorite writer outside of New York City
besides Howard Nazem? There's no one but those two. They're my favorite. Outside of New York and worldwide, there's so many. I mean, you got such amazing talents around the world. There would be too many to sit here and list off. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the art form. If you're nice with it, I'm a fan.
You're so diplomatic, bro. It's killing me.
I know, it's terrible. I saw Wayne. Don't hi, Wayne.
Halo Weird asks, do you ever see a wall would look better as a mural rather than a bunch of buff squares? How would you go about that? Proper channels, etc. This is so hard to read, this Instagram.
I don't understand. I don't understand. I mean, what, getting permission for a wall? You find the landlord. You go, exactly. You find the property owner and you ask them, and get a consent form. So when you're out there painting and the cops show up.
So, perhaps early Alzheimer's kicking in. Perhaps because someone is saying, "Hey, Bio, you and Wayne worked together at the Ink Spot back in the day."
No, Wayne didn't work there.
He didn't?
Not at the Ink Spot.
No.
I don't remember Wayne being there. Actually, that's where I first met Ski and Rec, and they're talking about what I'm thinking about in the Bronx. This was years ago in the Bronx.
Hey, Crash One is in the house.
John Matos.
He's kind of like the fifth Beatle of the TATS CRU, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like, we try to move, but he keeps finding us. We hide, but he finds us. Nah, Crash is a good dude. I got a lot of love for Crash.
Well, what's important for people to understand about that relationship, I think, in terms of how his career and commitment to community has developed over the years, and helping you guys come up as artists, but also a community, right? With Wallworks, the importance of building community in the South Bronx, that's changing, because you and I saw the South Bronx when it was burning.
Yeah.
It was a war zone.
Crazy.
And so you guys have done so much for the Bronx and revitalizing it, and now it's getting gentrified.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's inevitable. Change is inevitable. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just the whole city. Think about change is good, but when it forces out people who can't, out of their homes and can't live in an area, I'm not cool with that. But like I said, look at the Lower East Side. How was the Lower East Side years ago? Like people go to the Lower East Side now. Years ago, you would not be going Alphabet City or any of that area, because that shit was like dangerous. And it changed. You go now. You got a million restaurants, a million cafes.
Right. And so now it's almost like we are forced to be nomadic.
Yeah. Again, branch out and move out again. Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, obviously with gentrification, some of the neighborhood improves, but then you have these outrageous rents where families are forced out. So that's the part that I struggle with. Change is always going to happen, but there needs to be a balance where, let's improve the neighborhood, but let's try to maintain some of the integrity and the people who lived here before.
So I have a question which I often ask the muralists. do you ever feel complicit in that gentrification? Because the murals are really kind of, it's already been a formula, right? Get
Yeah,
the
when
artists
get
in
the
with the
artists come in,
murals,
yeah.
the coffee shop, etc.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're guilty of that as well, you know, where we've come into neighborhoods and painted murals. But the flip side to that is that, you know, as artists, you have to live, you know, and,
Yeah,
you know, what I've realized is the fight that people have, it's a little late. When you're fighting with the artists, you're about 10 years too late because you should have been at the community board meeting 10 years ago when that developer got the
mm,
permits to buy that property and develop. You know, when you're by the time we're brought in, that building's going to be there regardless of whether you paint on it or not, or these neighborhoods, you know, like, because we've been called in to do new development and then, you know,
hmm
certain neighborhoods that are run down. But this this all happens, you know, with years in advance. So what you're seeing is
right.
that by the time you artists are there, you know, it's end result.
I mean, do
neighbor.
you, in terms of a future for the Bronx, the South Bronx, you know, as we see things like Wallworks having to move out and
Yeah,
shift, um, you know, people are being moved out of their studios left and right.
it's
Um,
unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
will there be a time where um, you won't be a native to the Bronx?
No, because you know where our office is located, the Point owns that property, so we ain't going nowhere. You know, that property's paid for and bought for a long time ago. So, you know, our relationship with the Point now, it's going on maybe 25 years.
That's phenomenal. Tell
You
people
know,
what the point is.
the Point is a community development corporation that was formed in the Bronx maybe like in 1984, and you know it was implemented for several reasons. One, to bring arts, you know, to and dance and that sort of stuff to the community, you know, to a community that didn't have, you know, that, you know, place where you can go learn about theater, photography, and that sort of stuff, and also
Hmm
economic development. You know, you know, small business incubators. You know, they have all these programs for, you know, teaching teens how to advocate for themselves and, you know, go and study, you know, their own neighborhood and, you know, make that change, you know, that's important, you know. So the Point has been very, very instrumental in, you know, the revival of like Hunts Point, where, you know, they've been there early on. I remember the Point was abandoned when we first got there. It was just like an
Right.
old
Why don't you
bagel
paint the
factory.
picture of what Hunt's Point was really like through the 70s and 80s?
Oh man, Hunts Point, you know, was like, you got the Hunts Point market at the back. You know, it's mostly industrial. Hunts Point, for the most part, you know, you
Hmm
have small pockets of neighborhoods, but for the most part, it's industrial. And it was just like hookers everywhere. You go to the back of Hunts Point, it's hookers. You know, you have all these auto shops. You know, so you got stolen cars, and it was just a wild, like the Wild Wild West. You know, Hunts Point, and it's kind of a weird place because it's in the Bronx, but it's kind of cut off by the highway. So it's kind of its own little world. Once you get to the other side of the Bruckner Expressway, Hunts Point is like this little piece attached to the Bronx, but it's its own world, you know. And even Hunts Point is changing. It's crazy, you know. Like the building across from our office, you know, the banknote building was this amazing, huge warehouse kind of type situation, which was 90% vacant about, I want to say 15 years ago. It was 90% vacant. And then now, like, the rent is through the roof, you know, per square footage is like you know, untenable.
Thank you, Bio.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for painting a picture for us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having